What's up, guys? Saf here on SuperSaf Speaks, and welcome to episode number 36 of the podcast with myself, your host, Saf, and my co-host,
Thunder E from Border Work. I got it this time.
Yeah, he's getting there. He's getting there. It might be a different name for the next episode. Let's see. Let's see what he's feeling like. All right, guys, we've got a jam-packed episode for June. There's been a lot of AI talk, hasn't there? Yeah. A lot of AI talk. Is Google Glass coming back with the teasers that we had in Google I/O? There's some new ChatGPT updates, which have been really impressive. I've just literally come back from the Microsoft event where we had Copilot+PC and lots of AI features, which we can talk about. We've both been using the iPad Pro for the past 2 weeks or so. And that will also lead on to WWDC is just around the corner. It's coming in a couple of weeks. There's lots of rumors about what's going to be announced there. And finally, we've also got a little bit of a bonus, which is Apple's foldable device. There's some solid rumors and leaks around that. So we may be finally seeing a foldable Apple device, but you're going to have to stay tuned all the way to the end to hear about that.
Yes.
Don't skip. You better not skip. I see you there. Disable the skip option. Anyway, so dude, it's May, June. We talk about Techtober, right? Even Techvember to an extent. Bruv, it's May and June. And it's crazy. There is back-to-back releases. There's all of these events going on. I mean, it's great to be in the tech world, but what are we going to call it? Are we going to call it... I mean, there's nothing that kind of goes with Tech May, Tech June.
Nah.
What are we going to call it?
There's
no names.
Tech.
It's just crazy.
Summer of Tech. Let's just call it the Summer of Tech. That's what it's
I like that.
Yeah.
It's the Summer of Tech here in 2024. So starting off with Google Glass. Is Google Glass coming back?
I mean, I don't know. They kind of teased it at Google I/O. Google had a demo with it's not Gemini. I just forgot the name of the process, but they were using the camera and walking around showing different tasks in a conversational setting, similar to what you guys have probably seen with ChatGPT. It's very responsive. It solved the problem. It reminded the user where it forgot, where they left keys. Have you seen my keys? The last time you left it here. And then the user proceeded to drop the phone and just picked up a pair of glasses. And then there was a third camera, showcasing the glasses. And you could hear the crowd go, it was yeah, we're waiting, right? And then, proceeded to use the glasses same way as the camera and, just working through things on the board. And I was like, guys, you should have at least just said, glasses coming soon at the end of that. Just that. That would be fine.
Did you get to use the Google Glass when it did initially come out?
I did. It was too far ahead of its time when it came out, I think. And also it was limited because you had this very small viewing area and everyone was trying to go visual instead of auditory, in terms of cues. It was cool, but I was hoping there would be a version 2 with a bigger screen or something, and it just never did.
So let me tell you a bit of a personal story, because when Google Glass came out, I was super annoyed because in my final year university project, many years ago, this is way before Google Glass, right? The project it was a final year project, but we were doing 3D design, and it was a current phone. So smartphones weren't really a thing. iPhone and stuff wasn't really a thing. So a current phone, what it's now and what it will be like in 30 years. What vision do you have for it in 30 years, right? So I had the Sony Ericsson K700i, right? So if you remember that device. So I modeled that in 3D. And then I put this concept together of what I thought phones would be like in 30 years time, right? Some people did watches and things. I did this visor unit, a bit when you've got Cyclops. He's got that really cool looking visor. So I designed one of these things with an earpiece, and I kind of did concepts of what you'd see. in front of you, sort of like, Minority Report style, which wasn't released back then. So yeah. But I was like, man, they took my idea. I should have done a patent on that. But anyway, I didn't actually get to try it out. So, but when it did come out, I was really excited about it. And I think you're right that it was ahead of your time. However, now with the Apple Vision Pro, with the Ray-Ban Meta glasses and stuff, things are now starting to kind of come, they're coming back to that sort of form factor, something that's wearable that you can just have. And for me, who always wears sunglasses, even to bed, it's just
oh God.
having something that's this size, that's compact, which the Google Glass was. I mean, Vision Pro, you could tell it's a big unit that's going to be on your face, right? Whereas Google Glass was something that was a lot more accessible. Yes, it looked different and weird, but it was nowhere as in your face as something like some of these AR VR glasses like we have with the Metas, and then now with the Vision Pro.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think where they were then was a long way, and seeing that little glimpse of a demo, reminded me of something I saw from the financials of Meta, which sounds like a divergence, but Meta talked about them decreasing hardware spend. So they were like, people were like, oh, they're going to spend less on, the Meta VR headset, but they talked about increasing spend. I forgot what they called it, but basically on the Meta Ray-Bans, because they saw a great uptake from there. And it was a very good partnership with Ray-Ban that they want to continue that, because it still is a pair of Ray-Bans. That's the first thing. So because you like good sunglasses, you want something like that, you buy that. And then you now get the AI experience. Now, what I want from them is a pair of Meta SuperSaf sunglasses.
That's what we
Just
need.
saying. That's all we need.
And then
we can just do a slight, for maybe the people who want to spend a little bit more, a little kernel donation. It might cost maybe a couple thousand more, but just say
the kernel edition. So what we do is, it's like you have the SuperSaf glasses, but then the limited edition, like only 10 pairs is the Kernel Singala ones. But the thing is, you have the aviator frames, man. They're too thin to
the Kernel can make exceptions.
For money, the Kernel could do
a lot
of things.
Guys, listen, think about this. Saf as your AI, just telling you, because with the Meta Ray-Bans now, you can go, hey, Meta, what is that? And it tells you, oh, that is the Eiffel Tower. It was created at this time. Imagine Saf telling you that on just a regular basis, as long as his voice is licensed properly.
I'm not sure, man. I think the voice, AI voice, is going to be Fisher, right? He's the one who needs to be the AI voice of any. Mine, maybe not so much. Maybe I could be one of those, one of those AI voices that really like motivates you, but like, like Mr. T sort of thing. Get up, fool. Or just like, I'll do that. Or maybe Singala could do that. I don't know.
Singala
Lots of
might
ideas.
be too harsh, though.
What are you doing?
Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get up. Yeah. Why are you looking at the Eiffel Tower? Go back to work.
Get back to work. Lots of potential, lots of business ideas.
Yeah.
Meta, guys, hit us up. We're here. All right, guys. Next up, ChatGPT. Some updates. I saw the little video that you did. Having a conversation with your wife. Happy anniversary, by the way.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It was cool. It's so ChatGPT made a bunch of announcements. This was actually before Google I/O, and they took a very different approach. So Google I/O, Google had the stage. They talk about a lot of the internal tools. They didn't show too much externally, but they showed a huge framework. ChatGPT had just people sitting down on a table, a bunch of really cool demos. One that I found really interesting, I was like, you know what? I'm in that era where I'm going to be having kids. This is great. Is where the guy sat down with his son and said, hey, ChatGPT, I'm here with my son. Here's his homework. Please teach him about trigonometry, but don't give him the answers and go. And it sounded like a school teacher who was trying to help this kid.
Yeah, that was very impressive.
Which are the different sides? Yeah, that to me was very impressive. And then the demo that I did on TikTok and IG was, language. ChatGPT has a really fast language processing module. And my wife speaks Spanish. So we're like, all right, cool, let's do it. Let's go ahead. And I just said, my prompt was, "Hey, ChatGPT, I'm with my wife. Can you translate it for me in English, her in Spanish?" It's like, "Yes, I can." So I started. It translated in Spanish to her. She responded, and then there was one translation from my wife where it basically said the wrong thing. And she looked at me and shook her head. It's like, "Nah, that's wrong." So I went, "Hey, ChatGPT, why did you say that?" It didn't answer me telling me why. It corrected it and said it almost correctly. And she was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much it." And then continued the translation without asking me, should I continue or what do you want me to do? I just said the next thing in English and it continued in Spanish. So that was really interesting. But one thing I forgot to mention was looking at the comments, and I realized it later watching the video. Since my wife speaks Spanish, she's Dominican. Dominican Spanish is different from Spanish from Spain or Mexico. They have different intonations. Dominican Spanish is fast. And somebody said it matched the speed and aggressiveness of Dominican Spanish. That I found the most interesting of the whole thing.
That's impressive.
Yeah. That was. So to me, it was one of those things because where, we travel a lot. We go to different places, and I now know that I can communicate with people almost on a conversational level when I travel.
This is the thing, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, it has the AI call assist, right, where you can live translate and stuff like that, and it's good, right? But there's always a delay. This is the thing, there's a pause, right? And that kind of in terms of a conversation, it's unnatural because it's the pause in between, right? So I think how these are becoming a lot more conversational and they sound a lot more real, it's just becoming a lot better. I think what's going to be, the next step is where it actually replicates the voice as well, right? So say for example, when Grizel responds to you in Spanish, it picks up her voice and then translates that in English, but in her voice, right? Okay. That's when I'm going to be like, yeah, this is cool. Yeah. Because right now, you can use AI to translate dub videos, right? Okay. Yeah. So I actually got one of my videos dubbed in Hindi, right? And it was an AI voice. It wasn't my voice, right? But then I did another video, which I got it dubbed in Arabic with AI. And I sent it to my friend Faisal SuperSaf. Shout out to him from Saudi, and he's like, that was really good, but it was a bit more of a Kuwaiti accent, right? So it's you've got different, as you were saying, you've got Spanish, but it's different. You have slight different dialects, different tones, and the way you pronounce things, and that varies based on region to region. So it's interesting, but it is getting really good.
Oh, no, it is. There is an AI tool out there. I've forgotten the name of the company you can train the AI to sound like you. It may not get the translation right in terms of Kuwaiti, Arabic or Saudi Arabic, but the voice training. So I think you have to record a couple of videos, or in our case, YouTube. We can just link our YouTube videos, and it will learn from that, and then you can now do all your translations in your own voice. Yeah. but which actually, in a sense, is actually closer to perfect than perfect, because you and I, even learning a new language now, are not expected to get the right things right? Yeah. So basically,
things will always be a little bit off. You can always tell.
Yeah. So most viewers. Exactly. Most viewers will go, that's good. That's fine for E or Saf. Yeah. All right. So I think it makes sense.
You're going to be seeing E speaking in Hindi very soon. It's going to sound just like him. Can you imagine Karan Singhalla in Hindi?
Oh my God.
I'm looking forward to hearing that. That would be
that would be crazy.
It's getting good. Now, Microsoft event. So it was really exciting. There was some really cool stuff. Obviously, the big thing is Copilot+PC. What is Copilot+PC? Well, the devices that are running on Snapdragon X Elite and the X Plus platforms, right? So kind of now I would say real competition to the MacBooks. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. in terms of what they showed, we just have to wait for real world usage, right? That's the only caveat. But the benchmarks compared to the M3, we saw how many percentage higher and lower it was. But it was the battery life. And to be fair, Qualcomm in the past with their ARM Windows PCs have always had really good battery life. They just couldn't run anything really on there,
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the case in the past. But some of these devices have 22-hour battery life, right?
Yes.
And I think the lowest is 14 in general, which is the Surface Pro itself is 14, and the higher other devices has 22. So if it can do that on the battery life, I think for most Windows users, it's more about the battery life than necessarily, the power that they talked about. If it can run the apps and keep that battery life, golden. Everyone's like, thank God we're moving forward. I think that's the thing there.
And then it was like, from what I saw, very impressive, like battery life, the demos, they were unplugged, they were using them all day, and, they were still absolutely fine on battery life, running all of these demos in the demo rooms. And, some of the things that we tried out, such as Co-Creator, I did a little clip where you use Microsoft Paint. Man, I used to use Microsoft Paint to do drawings back in the day, right? And I remember how long it used to take me to actually do these drawings, and I used to impress everybody in school, because with a mouse it's very difficult to draw. But now you've got Microsoft Paint where you just scribble stuff, and then it uses AI to with some text prompts that you can put in, and I did a little example demo where I was just doing a landscape with a sunset in the style of Monet, who's a very famous artist, which when I was studying art back in way back when for my GCSEs, that's kind of Impressionism was the sort of thing that we were looking at. I was looking at the result and I was like, man, this is crazy. Anybody could be an artist, because what I did was very, very basic. It was literally some color splodges. And what was even more interesting was that everything was being done on device. So it was using the NPU, right? So we got 45 tops trillion operations per second, right? And it's doing that all on device, so it's not having to go in cloud. Because I think a lot of AI right now, especially when it comes to generative AI, where you're making images or doing something like that, one of the issues is you always have to be connected to the internet, and you need a good internet connection because it's kind of feeding things back and forth, and it's going off into the cloud and doing something. With this, it was, I think the most impressive thing for me was it's doing it all locally on device. You don't need to be connected on the internet. You don't need a subscription or anything like that. It's doing it all on device. So that was very impressive, and that's something that I can see people being quite excited about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about doing long trips. I remember last year going to Singapore, and 19 hours, and it's not the fact that it can last that long. It's the fact that, like you're saying, say I need to create a thumbnail or do something, and I'm using AI tools. You use a lot of the Adobe stuff, right? Being able to do that in the air, whatever you want to do, I think it's perfect. I think it allows for that creativity and also just the expansion of views. And one thing I did like from Microsoft Showcase is that all their AI functionality was practical. It wasn't just, yes, the stuff with paint is fun, but it's still practical. I joked about it. I said, when I have kids, I'm going to be making all these paintings for them. And they'll think Dad is just the best artist possible. And that's it, right? But
this is the thing though, isn't it? It raises the questions, what is art anymore? I remember when I was doing art at GCSE, we coming across some of these artists Picasso. A lot of people love his work and stuff like that. At the time, I was kind of I don't really get it. You've got the crying woman and weeping woman and things like that. But then we came across this one artist, right? Who, I don't know what he was smoking, yeah? But the painting was called Black Box on a White Background, okay? And guess what it was? It was just a black box on a white background, and that was supposedly art. And I was just so annoyed that somebody would try to pass this off as art. But obviously art is subjective, right? So maybe it's going to come to a point where AI is so good, you've got all these artistic images where then some simple stuff like, like just shapes on a canvas is going to be like, okay, this is now what is considered art because it's different. Who knows what's going to happen now with, how good AI has come in? Because we're talking about generative AI, like right now, literally, like you don't need to use stock libraries. Like when you use Adobe Firefly, for example, you can just say, if I want a background for a thumbnail, for instance, I can just type in, this is the sort of thing I'm looking for. It's going to generate a few different examples. Boom. You've got it there. And it's just absolutely crazy. But once again, all of this stuff has to go into the cloud. Whereas, being able to process a lot of this on the NPU, on device is what's really impressive. And, we've got the recall feature, which has been a little bit controversial. It's like it pretty much tracks your history of what you've been doing. So say, for instance, you're like, oh, yesterday, I came across this jacket, this black jacket that was really nice, but you have no idea where it was. You're trying to go through history, you don't find it and stuff like that. Recall is going to be able to let you search that. Just say, oh, hey, I want to find, remember when I was looking for this black jacket. It's going to actually track back and track your footsteps. And it's also going to present it in a timeline, which is going to make it very easy. Very useful for a lot of people. Other people are like super scared, like, what is going on with my history?
I mean, I get that. I think also recall is done on device as well, which is also a good thing. So it's not something that requires the cloud. It's on the device and will be accessed if you don't have Wi-Fi or anything like that. The second thing with recall is you can go ahead and turn off certain search terms and also apps. So you can decide to turn off like your browser history for incognito, or
if it was in Google Chrome. If it was on Google Chrome, I mean, the tracking
it don't matter. It exactly doesn't matter. So you do have that there. But I do like the fact that with recall, as you mentioned, you search for that black bag. It's not just using text. You could go. One of the things they mentioned is that you could look for that black bag, but not type it in. In terms of like when you originally search, what it's doing, it's using visual, it's using contextual clues as well, and bringing all that together so that it's like, okay, here is a black bag and here's also another bag that's black and something else, but maybe that's not what you're looking for, but here are all the things that pertain to a black bag. And you don't even, if it's a document, you don't have to open up the document, you can copy directly from there. And then and paste, which is, to me, it's a very useful tool that will speed up your day. For instance, you run a business, you've got documents and you're going, I need to search this contract for this person from last year. Or, you can, whatever
we have that a lot, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
We have that a lot.
It's like, we have that. So
what did we actually agree to in this contract? Yeah. Let's look back.
So we have to go through that.
They had this, and this left. Okay.
Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff that really, really helps. I think some of the other things they showcased besides recall that I thought was cool was, I don't know if you saw the demo there, or they had a demo. They talked about language translation within Teams and video calls, doing live translations in different languages.
Yeah. It's truly international. The world is now truly international. And this is the thing, isn't it? Like, you could be talking to 5 different people, speaking 5 different languages, and still manage to have a Zoom call, a Teams call with them, right?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think you see those things and people are going like, oh, that's really professional business. I'm like, yes, on that side, it is. But on the other side, the one demo that I really liked was, I was like, man, I need this for a couple of games, was the dad talking to Copilot to teach him how to play, to build something in Minecraft. And I'm like, I got a couple of boss levels that I have not passed that I need help.
That's the sort of stuff, how you were mentioning it as well with ChatGPT, right? Right now, like, bro, when I was at school, I remember the first time, like, we got homework and I was so excited to do it because this was something new and cool and stuff like that. Now, when you look at kids, like, they have lots of like complicated homework, which parents, it might not be their field, right? Okay. When was the last time you did, some sort of complex algebra and stuff like that? You're like thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to like, there's that meme that goes around where it's just like when your kid got an E- on the coursework, whatever, homework, and there was like a comment made about the kid, and it's just like, yeah, but you were the one who actually did the homework for the kid. And it's just like... But yeah, so, for situations like that, because, you can't, you can't expect to go all the way back and like remember all of this stuff. So this is where AI is going to be super useful, because it doesn't mean you could just neglect your child. That's not what we're encouraging. Right? But it allows you to be a bit more involved without having to input that much time trying to learn something which you probably are not going to use in your line of work.
No, absolutely. I think that's the case here. And I understand people's fears. I don't think it's going to take over everything. I think a lot of the background work in a lot of businesses, AI is going to do a lot of work there, because businesses are seeing that. I have friends who work at Cisco who are telling me, we're implementing some really crazy stuff that's going to minimize a lot of work, whether it's for me or even cut out some positions, because that's just what it does. But I think on the forefront, it has to be creative and functional and easy to use. We see the stuff with language is great. The stuff with teaching and learning is also fantastic. Recall feature, like it has to be those kind of things, or else it gets lost in the shuffle. And I think what would be interesting just to see is how a company like Apple brings this to the table and, changes things. Because Microsoft has kind of laid its cards. Google has laid their cards, and,
we're going to have to see
Dub's around the corner.
Now, before we move on to Dub, like the comparisons against the MacBook Air M3 now, I just posted some pictures from the keynote, and that tweet blew up. Like there was so many people kind of like having discussions around that. Now, here's my thing, right? Okay, the M3 MacBook Air kind of came out earlier this year, a couple of months ago, so it's still pretty fresh, right? But the M3 chip itself, right, has been out for a while, right? So the comparisons that they were making, fair enough, they were to the M3 MacBook Air, which is going to be sort of that comparative model, right? However, Apple has already released the M4 chip. Now, granted, it's just on the iPad Pro right now, which we're going to talk about because we've had it for a couple of weeks. But the M4 is out, right? So it seems like it's only a matter of time whenever Apple do decide to go with the MacBook Air with the M4 chip. What does that do to the competition? Because now you've got a completely different, because the M4 has been released, right? It's not like I've literally got an iPad Pro which has it running right now. Now, as I said, granted, it's not come onto the MacBook Air as yet, but the chip is already out there, and the M3 chip had been out there for a while.
Yeah. So it's a couple of things. Number one, we can say they did the right benchmark in the sense that it's, laptop to laptop, comparable devices, and that's the latest Apple has. That's a fair assessment on that aspect. But in terms of chip-to-chip performance, then we have to see which is faster. Now, Apple didn't give us any benchmarks really for the M4. The only thing they told us, it's 4 times faster in rendering than the M2, just reading off their website. And then 1.5 times faster CPU performance than the M2.
So, I mean, obviously, because the iPad Pro, they're putting it in the context of the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro, M2 version, and then now you've got the M4, right? Yeah. I'm just saying that the M3 chip itself, right, okay, it's been out for a while, right? So, yes, you're comparing it to a device that's got that chip, but when we're talking chip to chip, right? Chip to chip. When we're talking about M3, right, and then we're talking about Snapdragon Elite, X Elite, right? Okay, when we're talking just chip to chip, I'm very interested to see what the difference is going to be, because here are all these comparisons to a chip that is already the previous gen. Okay.
Yeah, true. We see this with the M2, M3 to M4. The difference in performance is also small, just on that side of things. Especially even like from the M3 to the M4. And also Apple did talk about the MPU performance they have with the M3, which is 40 TPUs, 40 top, sorry. So Snapdragon X Elite is 45. That's the only part I can do a clear comparison to say, okay, M4 does 40, X Elite does 45. So slightly better, 5 may not be that much, who knows? Like it's all about performance and how you use it, right? And all that stuff. But I think it's going to be interesting just because that we're getting into that realm that even Apple is seeing that it's becoming minutia where they keep comparing it to, because remember when the M3 came out, it was compared to the M1. especially on the MacBook.
Yeah. I know. It's
Yeah.
becoming like incremental rather than like big jumps, right? But I just think like for comparison's sake, right, it would be like chip to chip. But again, don't get me wrong. I'm not like kind of downplaying the comparison of the M3 MacBook Air, because that's the equivalent laptop, right? But I'm just saying that I would be interested because that is still, yes, it's in a new laptop, but that is still a chip that is technically now a previous generation chip because the new M4 chip has come out, right? So I would be very interested to see what that chip to chip comparison, because I think that's going to be give us a bit more of an idea of, okay, how does this compare to the M4, which has just now been released on the iPad Pro and may come to other devices in the next, few months. So let's see.
I think what's interesting is I saw an article a few days ago about roadmaps leaked for Snapdragon. And it looks like their next chip will be almost the same time next year. So, and Intel is usually September. So we're going to get this constant, annoying, staggering effect of comparisons.
Yeah. But this is what always happens, right? Okay, look, so let's take the smartphones for instance. So, the Samsung device comes out like January. It used to be like March, but then now it's moved back to January, right? Okay. Yeah. And then you have the iPhone, which comes out September. So now, obviously, what do? When I compare the S series device to the iPhone, they're like, oh, why are you comparing it to that for? Because that's a 7-month-old device, right? Okay. All right, then I'll compare it to the new one that comes out. And then all the iPhone fans are like, oh, that's a 2023 device. Why are you comparing it to a 2024 device for? It's just like, oh my God, like, we again, this is why I'm saying I don't blame Microsoft for comparing what's out there right now. I'm just saying that I'm interested to see what the difference will be. Now, speaking of the M4 chip, the iPad Pro is currently the only device that has it. We've been using it for a couple of weeks, and just to share some thoughts, I mean, it's an impressive device, right? Seeing how thin it is, 5.1 millimeters, and the more I kind of just like hold it in hand, it's just like, wow, like this is the magic sheet of glass that Apple has been talking about for so long, right? It's so thin, and like Zach actually tried to bend it, and it only bent when he did it. Like, it actually held up quite well when he bent it landscape, right? But when you try to bend it portrait, because of the USB-C port, right, that's where it was kind of the weak point. I was quite impressed that something that's that thin and light, right, which has so much tech into it, the M4 chip. I'm still very impressed with it. The display, absolutely, of the display is beautiful, right? You've got tandem OLED, very bright, right? Honestly speaking, if you're coming from an M2 iPad Pro, you might not notice a massive difference in day-to-day, right? Where you're going to notice a difference, if you're in a dark environment, you're not going to notice the blooming that you get, that you would have got with the previous generation. You're just going to get more contrast. I mean, it is a beautiful display, and that's something that I really like, okay? Apple Pencil Pro, having that squeeze feature, really cool. Like, you don't have to like reach over for any tools now. You just press, and there it is, right? Very, very good. My thing is, right, okay, all of this, amazing. It's still an iPad, and it's still running iPad OS, okay? So a lot of people that I speak to, what do they use their iPad for? There's a few that I know, a few people who use, especially with the Apple Pencil, they're artists, right? And they use it for art. And I totally get that, right? But when you talk to general users, they use it for like watching movies. They use it for like browsing and things like that. I'm like, you could do that on the M2 though, right? You could do that in the M2, and I've even said in my review video, I said, look, if that's what you're going to be using it for, I would go for the iPad Air, because you can still use the Apple Pencil Pro. It's still a very, very good tablet. Yes, it's a little bit thicker. Yes, it doesn't have the 120 hertz and things like that, but it's still a very, very good tablet, right? Now, the first thing with the Apple Pencil Pro, it's not backwards compatible, so you can't use it on your previous iPad. So if you're thinking, I just want that new feature and I want it on there, little cheeky. I don't know what the solution is, because apparently it's down to the charging mechanism because it's changed, but I'm sure there would have been a workaround it. Maybe you could have had an Apple Pencil Pro USB-C, right? So you're like, you know what? Okay, fair enough. I can't wirelessly charge it. I just want to plug it in and charge it up so I can have that squeeze feature, and I don't have to spend so much on a brand new iPad and stuff like that. But that's something that we were expecting, right? Okay. My main thing is, right, and I want to hear your thoughts on this as well, is iPad OS in its current form. I don't think there are many people who can utilize that M4 chip on iPad OS. What are you thinking?
Answering that question.
That was some
first.
deep thought there, man. It's like all the we just got all of the equations going.
No, to answer the question, I'll answer the question first because I had this discussion with my editor, who's a Mac user, Apple in the Apple ecosystem, and you guys know I'm not. But he said something that was interesting that changed my perspective a little bit. He said it's also an age thing as well. Not putting ageism is that, I grew up with PCs. Well, PCs, Mac, doesn't matter. I grew up on the PC area. A younger generation has grown up on the iPhone, iPad era as well. And, if you think about a younger content creator, if you gave them an iPad and a phone versus a phone and a Mac, they most likely would take the iPad Pro if we're given a choice, because they can edit their stuff on either on CapCut or Final Cut or whatever software. You can do it on the iPad or even your iPhone. There's a creator that I follow who does a lot of he's a model and he does a lot of like outfit showcases. So he would do like, here all. Can you give us an outfit range for all the characters in Dragon Ball Z? And he uses regular clothes and to mix it up. He does a really good job. And he did one for Dragon Ball Z, which was long and impressive. So everybody was like, who's your editor? What's the software you use? All that stuff. He's like, CapCut on my iPhone. I was like, for all that, excuse me. And that's kind of the point where I was like, okay, I can see why this is for that user. They're very comfortable with it because they don't care about the desktop experience, which a laptop still provides, right? It's kind of out of the way. So I think that's where Apple is trying to push that user to say, hey, you can have an iPad that gives you just as much power and you can do all the stuff that you want. And you still love the iPad. You can still travel with it super light and carry away.
But
I think that's the user base, yeah.
No, that's the user, right? But guess what? That user can still do everything that you just said on the M2.
No, I'm not disagreeing at all. No,
so this is the thing. For me, it's like the M4 is overkill. Now, granted, it means that, like most people that I know, like it's not like smartphones, which a lot of people update every sort of like couple of years or something. With an iPad, people usually hold on to it for, a good 4 years, I would say, on average, right? Maybe longer. And having the M4 on the iPad Pro, like you're going to be able to use that for a while. That thing's going to give you still going to give you good battery life, performance, all of that, right? Okay. The only thing you're going to have to update it for is like, say for instance, if you had the M2 iPad Pro and you wanted the new Apple Pencil Pro, you're going to have to update. You're going to have to sell that, but whoever gets that is still going to have that experience. So that's kind of my point. But I agree with you that the user demographic is changing a lot, right? And especially what people use there for. But again, that amount of power on an iPad Pro, there are only very few use cases who are going to be able to utilize that chip to its full potential on an iPad Pro. Okay.
Yes. No. I mean, I think that's true. I also think that when we talk about dub and what Apple wants to do, I think that will also change. Like you said, it's super light. It feels so comfortable. I don't personally see the need for it to be this thin. I kind of agree with Marquez where he said that maybe it's a little bit of envy that Samsung had the thinner tablet from last year, But hey, cool.
Competition is good.
That's fine. That's cool. I've been trying to use it. I'm going to do a video where I've been trying to use it as my base device for like the 2 weeks. So that's, you're going to get one of those Android users with just the iPad type videos.
All right. You already know the title. You already know I'm switching. Why I'm switching.
Why I'm switching.
Cliche YouTuber tech title.
I know, right? I know. But again, the one thing I'll say is just, I do like the keyboard. The keyboard feels very comfortable, very good. It makes it heavy and thicker, so I won't be using that when I travel. I'll probably just use the folio just to cover it up and protect it, and that's pretty much it. I think Saf is right. To justify moving from the M2 to the M4 right now, there is no justification unless you're a creator who does maybe music with Logic, because the new Logic tools are very impressive. Unless you are a content creator that does a lot of editing and you think you're going to do a lot more work, that extra power does help. Sure, that's not a problem. But those are the specific case scenarios that will fit in, at least currently right now for the Mac. I said the MacBook. See the iPad,
the iPad Pro.
M2, M4.
Well, I mean, I It's a great device, right? Magic Keyboard. I'm a bit like sort of mixed on the Magic Keyboard because it's lighter now. It's thinner and lighter, which means that I did like these calculations, and it turns out that the iPad Pro 13-inch with the Magic Keyboard now weighs around about the same. It's just a little bit more, but it's around about the same as a MacBook Air 13-inch, right? And that's kind of like the sweet spot, I think, because then that kind of justifies you thinking, okay, look, I can use this. It's going to replace my MacBook Air. It's still just as compact, but I can always take it out. And obviously, I have all the features that the iPad is going to give you, such as with the Apple Pencil Pro, which you're not going to get, obviously, on the MacBook Air. But the Magic Keyboard is $350, £350, right? Guess what you can get for £350? An iPad 10th generation, a full-fledged working iPad, right? So I get that it's really impressive technology, and like the way everything's balanced, and they call it a Magic Keyboard for a reason, the way it's got the floating and stuff like that. But man, that is a lot of money for a keyboard, right? After you've already dished out $1,300 for the iPad Pro, or probably more if you want more storage.
I mean, but to be fair, Microsoft's keyboard is also how much? $349.
Sure. Really? Have you just found
it? Yeah, it's $349. Trust me, I had a buddy of mine who reached out to me and just complained about it.
we need to start an online petition about keyboards are getting too expensive. I'm not saying they're bad keyboards. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're bad keyboards. I'm saying they're good keyboards. But it's just like when you put that, like, to my mind, I'm like, okay, Magic Keyboard, amazing, great piece of technology. Okay, £350. Then I've got a full-on iPad, right? 10th generation, which is the iPad that's, going to be absolutely fine for the majority of people. It's a very, very good iPad. And then I'm like thinking, man, a keyboard or a full-fledged iPad? Like, when you put it like that, I think about 200 is fine. That's what I would say, 200.
I mean, Microsoft would tell you the same thing because with the keyboard, you get the pen in there. Mm-hmm. So that, I feel you on that one. I feel you on that. I think things are just, like the ice cream girl in the UK. I mean, things are getting expensive.
2 bloody ice creams for £9. £9.
As much as I laughed in that video, I was like, this girl's right though. 2 ice creams for $9. If she's like my niece and I'm buying ice cream for her and her friend, I'm like, whoa, you might have to share that ice cream.
I know, nine bloody quid for 2. You ain't getting nowhere. I agree with that. You ain't going nowhere with that price. What is going on? For those of you who don't know, you'll have to Google ice cream rant, this the 2 twins. But yeah, it was just hilarious. She's gone viral. But yeah, it just reminded me of my nieces. Hilarious. But yeah, it's crazy. Prices are getting crazy. But anyway, Dub coming up. We may see some interesting changes with the new version of iPad OS 18, which I think may utilize the M4 more potentially, right? Because there's a heavy emphasis on AI. And that's something a lot of, from what we're reading on the rumors here on like Mac rumors, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. Did I just call Mark Mac? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mark.
You did.
I apologize. I just called you Mac, dude. All right. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman believes that iOS 18 will be relatively groundbreaking with major new features and designs, primarily focused on AI. Okay. Now, the first thing I wanted to say is one of the rumors is that we're going to be able to rearrange the app icons as we please. They're not going to just be pushed to the top. Finally, right? I've been complaining about this for ages. You've got a huge screen. Why do you want everything towards the top for, right? And you don't want to like just, throw in widgets there for the sake of it. Let us be a little bit flexible, right? I'm not saying that, we could just put it everywhere. Just you can still have it in a grid. Just let us put it anywhere so then we can utilize that. That's the first thing. So, I mean, like that alone, great. Dub, success. AI aside. But just to kind of go through some of the rumored features. So we've got auto-generated Apple Music playlists based on input from the user, such as the mood. Okay. AI-assisted writing in Pages. AI-assisted slide deck creation in Keynote. AI code writing in Xcode for developers. I mean, that's going to be pretty interesting. Improved Spotlight search. Siri improvements that integrate large language models. such as natural conversation capabilities and improved user personalization. ChatGPT, this is where that kind of comes in, those rumors of that kind of coming together. That's going to be
actually,
very
I think even all of this is ChatGPT.
That's
especially the writing of developer code is something that's already going on right now.
I know. But I mean, for Xcode, like straight there where you can be developing apps and stuff, that's amazing. New integration between Siri and Messages app to better allow Siri to respond to messages and suggest response options, right? You just have a conversation. You're like, I can't be bothered to talk to the missus today. It's like, Siri, just talk to her for me.
Oh my God.
In Spanish. You're going to get in trouble, mate.
She would know something is wrong at that point.
She's like, what is going on here? All right. Shortcuts integration with Siri. So users can automate complex or multi-step tasks using voice-based commands, right? So now that's kind of like a few of the sort of highlights on there. Obviously, big emphasis on AI, right? And obviously, we won't know exactly what's going to be coming out. We obviously speculate over here, but we won't know exactly until it's dub time, right? But that integration with ChatGPT, I mean, everybody's saying that, Siri is finally going to be something that they're going to use on a regular basis, right? That's what a lot of people are saying and joking about online. Now that if it does get integrated with ChatGPT, because that's going to be big.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to elevate Siri to such a level that Google is going to be in trouble with Google Assistant, even though they have Gemini, which a lot of people say Gemini really works well, but it's not fully integrated. It's a separate thing right now, even though we're still talking about DubDub. But the rumor is that Samsung is also looking to use ChatGPT on Bixby, which takes Bixby from technically a dumpster fire to LA. I mean, ChatGPT is just powering like everything at this point, which is great to see, because one of the things that I'm hoping to see from Apple and DubDub, and some of these announcements are nice. At least some of these rumors, not announcements, are nice. I just want to see some user practical features that come out of this that isn't necessarily the same as, say, what Microsoft is doing, or just the translation, because translation is a standard we all want. But what else can we do? The shortcut stuff I do like, because if it allows you to automate things or create those automations that you want, that might be key. So I'm just looking for something like that will help the iOS ecosystem stand out more and go like, yeah, okay, cool. The government is fining us on one end, but now we have all this stuff that, hey, if you want to come in, you can use, and it gives us a good starting point. So that's what I'm looking for from the announcements.
I agree. I think, but that's one thing that Apple's really good at, right? Like making something easy to use and kind of like accessible and widespread, right? Because we see a lot of these AI features kind of being shown around, and some of them are just like party tricks. You show them like, oh, that's very cool, sort of thing, right? How often are you going to use them, right? So this is where it becomes, how do you make these things practical and usable on a day-to-day, where it's going to be integrated into your daily schedule, daily life, and it's just going to be something that's easy to use and seamless. And that's, I think, what's going to be the key. And I think that's something that Apple is pretty good at doing generally. So whatever Apple does kind of becomes mainstream as well, because of their sort of wide user base and how it's all consistent. As soon as something that kind of people adopt on the Apple ecosystem becomes kind of standard across other devices as well, and it's something that everybody gets used to. So that's going to be interesting for sure.
Oh yeah, I think it will be. I think it's gonna be a fun year. I think people are gonna see what all these interactions feel like. With AI announcements everywhere, Apple's gonna come out with their own big push, and I think they may not even announce some of the functionality until iPhone event. It might be just like, hey, we've got improved Siri and all this stuff, and maybe they might even mention that, hey, ChatGPT is helping us, or they might not. But then at iPhone event, we were going to see some of the practical, like, oh, your iPhone, you remember how it wakes you up and does this? Now you can just, whatever the case may be. I'm just, surmising, but I think it will be interesting as we go into end of the year into next year, where our lives are truly going to be run by AI in some form or fashion.
It is, honestly, it's crazy how fast things have moved. When we did my end of year best tech collaboration last year, my favorite piece of tech was not like a piece of hardware. It was generative AI on Adobe Photoshop, because it's absolutely changed the game for me. Like, it's literally changed the game for how I work on a day-to-day basis when it comes to editing images, whether that be for thumbnails or anything else. It's completely changed the game. And, and it's something that I use every single day, like pretty much every single day. I just pop it up, boom. Like, it's just something that I now have become, and this is what it is. Like, this is what it is. It's that usability. How do you make it practical into a daily use scenario? And I think that's something that is going to be very exciting in WWDC, which is, just in a couple of weeks. It's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And will we see hardware or any future hardware?
I don't know. So this is the thing. There are some rumors that in terms of the hardware side of things, we might see some M3 devices, some more M3 devices potentially. I don't think we're going to see any M4, but there isn't anything, kind of solid. People are still waiting for refreshes of like lots. So like, for example, the Mac Studio, the Mac Mini, Mac Pro, which we've not had with the M3 chips. So potentially we might see some of that as well. But I've not seen anything. Have you? Have you seen anything solid?
No. I mean, I think it might be like the Mac Mini will be the next one with the M4. I think Apple is going to push all the devices to M4, because if they're rolling out any of these AI features, that 40 TOPS NPU is absolutely needed. So I think that might be the first one.
For a lot of people who probably don't know, like we hear these TOPS all the time, right? NPU, which stands for Neural Processing Unit, right?
Yeah.
And that basically means all of these AI features to be able to do them on device without actually taking up too much of your CPU and GPU, right? So it's kind of like a dedicated chip that's actually doing this processing for you. Some of the examples that we saw on Microsoft was that, okay, they're having these AI features running, but it's not really eating up any of your CPU or your GPU performance. It's like everything else is running as normal. And that's kind of what's key. And then, the TOPS is 40 trillion operations per second. 45 is what we've got on the X Elite. So interesting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, although Apple could release something, I don't know, foldable, I think. Sorry, I was trying to tease there, guys. I'm terrible.
Very smooth, very smooth. Apple's foldable device, right? So this has been going on for ages. Lots of conversation about, is Apple going to release a foldable device at some point, right? Now, we've got a new report from the reputable leaker Ming-Chi Kuo, which I believe I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My apologies to because I'm not good at this. But anyway, one of the future foldable devices is there's actually going to be not one, but two, possibly, which are going to be in the first half of 2026. So hold your horses, guys. It's not anytime soon. It's still a bit of time left. And they do come in line with a recent rumor of a foldable tablet-like device, right? So there are going to be two form factors. There's going to be one more sort of tablet and one slightly smaller, right? Mm-hmm. And supply chain findings have say that LG will be the sole supplier for these foldable panels, and they're going to be creaseless, which is going to really drive up the cost. So, according to this on GSM Arena, the panel will be combined with a high-cost hinge as well as a preliminary estimates point to around $600 to $650 just for the panel alone, because it's going to be a creaseless panel. And that kind of makes sense with Apple, right? Like, you can't picture Apple coming late to the foldable market, but with a device that's just like everything else. They're going to have to do something that's a bit special, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like between $200 to $250 for the hinge, right? So that's just for the display and the hinge. So, you're looking at just the cost-wise, coming close to $1,000. So this thing is going to be expensive, I'm thinking in the region of around $2,500 at least, probably more, right?
I'm thinking Apple Vision Pro prices at $35. I mean, the rumor also states like it's going to be the M5 chip in there. Apple will look at that as your portable workstation. I'm not saying they use the word workstation, but it's that idea. It's like you can open it. I think the form factor works to 20 to 25 inches. So, I mean, you pretty much have a monitor. It's saying you can go from a tablet to a monitor. So if you really want to sit down and do some, intense work, or you need a bigger timeline, or whatever the case may be, right? And it's seamless. Yeah, it's Vision Pro prices.
And it's looking like, that's kind of sort of what you with the Asus foldable, right? The Asus ZenBook Fold, that kind of a thing, right? I mean, it's going to be interesting because, like with the Vision Pro, I think it might just be something that's a bit niche. Like, it's only for early adopters and people who really kind of want that, who are going to be spending that amount of money on it. It's not going to be something that everybody's going to go out and buy. It's really going to be one of those sort of status symbols. Like, if you're a true Apple fan, you're going to have one of these devices. Yeah. And it's obviously going to be a big deal from that point of view. But I don't think, especially at that price, it's not going to be something that's going to be widespread or widely adopted, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think initially it will be that. It all depends on cost driving down, right? And also what people are comfortable with. But I think also at that time, if it's 2026, we will see cheaper foldables also with almost seamless creases as well from the likes of like Samsung, Xiaomi, even OnePlus, where we could see in the $600 to $700 range by then. Maybe not as powerful as whatever the top end is, but definitely in that range, which becomes exciting for consumers to use. But I think Apple has this space far enough where I think they feel that they will just come in at the right time for them, and the right price.
And Apple's never afraid to be a little bit late to the game with certain things, as long as they come in like right and like do something that's everybody's going to be talking about. And I think that will definitely be the case. So, hey, I mean, you know what? We got to thank all these companies, man. They're giving us stuff to talk about. Keeps us in work, man.
Yes, they do. Thank you, companies.
Thank you, Apple. Thank you, Microsoft. Thank you, ChatGPT. Thank you, all of the other tech brands that keep giving us content to make. Because without them, guess what? What would we be talking about, dude?
When you said thank you, ChatGPT, I just imagined as like maybe a year or two from now, even we could have this podcast without us not having the podcast. It's like our AI versions are discussing this while we're both talking to each other separately. Like, how's your day, man?
Yeah, just like kind of chilling. Let the AI do the work for us. Man, exciting times ahead. Anyway, stay tuned on the main channels because we will be covering lots coming up. We didn't even get to talk about Computex. Enabong's going to be at Computex, so make sure you keep up to date with all of the announcements there that he's going to be checking out. I'll be at DubDub hopefully, so I'll be posting from there live too. And yeah, that's all we have time for. I think we just hit just over an hour, so thank you all for listening. Make sure you do drop us a rating, follow us on all the your favorite for podcasting platforms. We're also uploading full episodes as well as clips on YouTube, so do check those out as well on SuperSaf Speaks. Thanks for listening and watching. This is Saf, your host on SuperSaf Speaks, with my co-host
Thunder E from Border Work,
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.